Hi, my name is Danielle Talley. I am the owner of Sky's the Limit Yoga Company and the Caffeinated Yogi. We are here at the Norfolk studio, and I am excited to be on the show.
Hello, everybody. I'm Greg Tomchick. Welcome to the Connected Mindset Podcast, where each week we bring you the stories to better connect with the world around you. Let's dive into this week's podcast.
Welcome back to the Connected Mindset Live. I'm your host, Greg Tomchick. Really looking forward to today's episode with Miss Danielle Talley. Danielle, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. So one of the ways we like to start the show is what mission are you on? What are you hoping the listeners in today walk away with?
Yeah, so I would say to kind of know me in a nutshell, my goal is to help take yoga off of the mat. And I also like to do that besides the practice of yoga. I would say I try to take yoga to the more of my mission, if you will, is to take yoga to the yogi mind, to your barbell, dinner plate, and beyond.
I love that. Yeah, I was in a yoga class this morning, actually. I love practicing yoga, and it's an essential cornerstone of my life. And the instructor mentioned her definition of yoga was your own growing awareness. And I think we can all improve our awareness of things that are happening around us. So I love that you're bringing it to your dinner plate and to your daily life, because I think there are so many fundamental lessons from yoga that are transferable to how we connect with the outside world, which is what we're all about on this show, is how do you initially start by connecting with yourself and then bring that to the outside world. So I'm curious, how'd you come across yoga, and what was the story that brought you to the mat to be able to realize you wanted to bring it off the mat?
Yeah, totally. So I grew up in the world of dance. I danced from age 3 to 18. And I did everything. I danced in a studio competitively. I danced on Broadway. That's like a fun fact of mine. And whenever I went to college, I missed being in a dance studio. I missed the world of dance. And I auditioned to be part of the dance team. I got it, which was very exciting. I did not resonate with the fact that whenever you go to sign your contract, I had to weigh in, and I had to weigh in once a week. I couldn't be plus or minus 5 pounds from my starting weight. And even though that really wasn't a problem for 18-year-old me, it didn't resonate with me. I wasn't comfortable with that. So I started searching for something else. And a really good friend of mine who also grew up in the world of dance, she said, Danielle, you should try yoga. And I knew nothing about yoga. I said, no, I don't want to meditate. That does not sound like fun. And she then told me to go to a hot power class. And I said, I don't want hot, sweaty meditation. That also does not sound like fun. I finally took her advice and went, and realized that I had no idea what I was talking about. I jokingly now tell people that reach out about teacher training, we often get the question of how experienced do I have to be before I join? And I always say you were probably more experienced than what I was. I took 3 classes and I was hooked. I was like, I want to learn more about this. I want to teach this. I was in love with it.
Wow.
Yep.
What did dance teach you about, I guess, just the world around you, as far as, because it's kind of half performance to somebody watching, but there's a kind of a flow you have to get into
Definitely
to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. I guess I would say dance taught me a lot of self-discipline, but self-discipline with a smile, if that makes sense. It's something that, yes, you have to, hit a certain pose at a certain time, but that word flow is something that also very much correlates to the world of yoga. And I think that's why I really loved how similar they were. But yoga really taught me how to present myself in a fun, in an exciting, in a loving way, but also how to do that while being disciplined, while making sure that you are following everything to a T, to account.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can tell that you've taken that into your brand as well, being like, the fun, the connection, the ability to be playful through something that can be so serious. And I think people bring that into exercise in general, where it's like they're on this defined mission to make their body look a certain way.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people get into yoga or exercise initially for the body feelings, but there's so many psychological benefits as well.
100%. And I really do think that that's with any way that you move the body. In yoga, there's a reason why we have no mirrors in either one of our studios. I never want it to be that somebody is constantly fixing their yoga pant line or adjusting their hair. I want them to just be able to focus on themselves. And for me as a strength coach, I work with clients one-on-one, and I use an app called True Coach. And my point of that is they're not even in a room where they are comparing themselves to the person next to them. They're able to, of course, get demo videos and get all this fun information and good information, but they're able to do it at their own pace, at their own time, make it something that's more accessible.
Absolutely. How do you think the world of yoga has changed since you got into it? Was it 2017 or even before that?
I got into it before that. So I started the yoga company in 2017, but I have been in the world of yoga for longer than apparently I can count. I would say around like 2011, I believe. And I do think it is people used to think of it as just this big woo-woo. I mean, even look at me in the beginning, right? Like I thought that it was just meditation. Unfortunately, people still have this idea that if I can't touch my toes, I can't do yoga. Yeah. I've heard that phrase one too many times. And I jokingly like to say that actually means you need more yoga, not less. Yeah. But I do think that we've moved away from this idea that it's just this, I shouldn't say just, it is still a very spiritual practice. There is so much philosophy and mindset to this amazing thing called yoga. But I do think that people are starting to understand that yoga really is for everybody. There's something for a toddler. There's something for a stressed out college kid. There is a type of yoga for your grandma. And I think that people are starting to become more and more comfortable with like, what is my yoga? And knowing that that can be different than your yoga.
Yeah, everybody. I think I love the way that yoga teachers commonly find a way to break up words to do meaning. I haven't found another community that does that
We're also great with analogies. Like breaking up words, analogies. Yoga teachers are definitely the king there.
I think it's the creativity and the curiosity. I think when I came to yoga, it was about I was in college and I did it for half of the stress and then half for baseball benefit for flexibility because I'm a taller person and had really, really tight hamstrings and really tight back. And I didn't realize that till I got to that level where the way I was going to get to the next level was flexibility. Yep. And people used to ask me like after I got started in it, they were like, Greg, why are you so calm? Like, are you, do you not have energy? And I was like, I feel energetic. I feel like the yoga practice allowed me to almost like sink into who I was. Yep. Versus trying to be like super high energy just to align with what the outside world's frequency around me was. Because everybody was like jumping up and down and kind of hoorah.
And I think it also just helps you to kind of get even a different perspective on the times and places whenever you might just be holding a bit more, let's say, tension. I tell people the story all the time of I used to be like not the worst driver in regards to physically how I drove, but like I would get so angry, so tense all the time. And yoga has truly made me a peaceful driver. Like, I don't care whenever somebody cuts me off now. It happens. Where before, I would be an angry, hot mess after that time, And yoga gives you these tools to just help you balance, like, where you need it in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, I think there's different levels of the psychology exploration. I think people are on so many of the different levels, but they feel like they have to be something to get into yoga or exercise.
There's a reason why for us at Sky's the Limit, we don't necessarily, I hate whenever I see that it's like a level based class, like they'll call it, level 1, level 2, or intro or something. Yeah. We say that all of our classes are made for every level, every experience, from somebody that's brand new to somebody that's been practicing longer than I've been alive. We always try to kind of help educate a student to say, what is it that you're looking for? Because you can get a brand new person that's looking for a stretch. You can get a brand new person that's looking to get really sweaty. And it's really just what is your desire? What's your goal here? And then we can help you to navigate and find the class that you're really looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of our listeners are either have recently or are going to go through a transition, from, like, for you, it was dance, and then, you went through schooling. I'm curious kind of if you could tell a little bit about that story, going from dance, eventually finding yoga, getting into a career, and then how that led to starting Sky's the Limit.
Yeah, so I started yoga pretty much right out of high school, in college, and I began working in corporate America at that same time. I never recommend this to anybody, but I was working full-time at the time at Bank of America. I was working part-time at Publix, part-time at Express. I thought I was going to go to law school, so I was interning in a law firm. I was getting my teacher training, like, do not recommend. I was getting 2 bachelor's degrees at the same time, like, honestly, don't recommend. But I continued with my corporate America journey. I worked at Bank of America for a few years, and then I worked at Raymond James Financial. Throughout that time, I went through my 200-hour and my 300-hour teacher training. And I started teaching very part-time. I slowly let teaching yoga become a bigger part-time. Like, I would run out on my lunch break to go teach across the street. I was teaching at any opportunity I could. And I really saw the joy that yoga brought me, but I knew that I wanted to do something different. I had no idea what that was. I just knew I wanted to do something different. And I was kind of trying to think, what is something that is a void, something that I see sometimes doesn't exist in a yoga studio or a community. And I felt that a lot of times, like, let's say you and I constantly went to the same Tuesday class at 5:00, but let's say we did that same class for months. We almost started to get to know each other, but there's a lot of times not a space inside a yoga studio where you can talk and hang out after. So we would almost, like, awkwardly wave and then leave quietly, like, and, just follow this rule inside a yoga studio. And I wanted to break that. So I came up with the idea of opening a yoga studio and coffee shop. I then quit my corporate job and I worked to help actually open up a few coffee shops. This was in Florida, where I used to live. I did that for about 6 months before I moved here to Virginia. And just to kind of give me some background knowledge in the world of coffee. I knew how I liked my coffee, and that's about it. Long story short, that didn't necessarily pan out the way I wanted it to. But I moved here in summer of 2017, in June, actually. July, I taught my first, what I call, community class. So we're at a coffee shop, brewery, a park, things like that. I taught my first one here in the beginning of July. I knew nobody here, by the way, and I had 18 people in class. I did a ton of marketing. I was so proud of that class. I still look at that picture and smile whenever I see, the participants that were there. But I started growing Sky's the Limit just from that community-based. I slowly started bringing on more teachers to help me because we were spanning to more cities besides just here in Norfolk. And whenever COVID happened, I was actually just about to sign a lease, not here, sign a lease elsewhere. And literally, like, we were shut down and I was supposed to sign a lease the next week. And I reached out to the landlord and I said, I don't know if I should sign right now. And they were like, oh, no problem. This is going to last like 2 weeks. It's going to last a month. We all had no idea what was happening, right? And he kept holding the space for me. And finally, he said, I have somebody that's interested. And I knew that I couldn't commit to that. So throughout that time, I did start a virtual platform from 2017 to that 2020 timeframe. I had gained and grew such an amazing following with Sky's the Limit. We won so many awards for best yoga studio in the area, yet we weren't a yoga studio, And I launched a virtual platform after us being shut down for 3 days. I had 50 members in minutes. Like, it was truly an amazing community to show up and support something that I thought was about to be washed down the drain. And long story short, in November of 2021, I did open up the brick and mortar here in Norfolk. Now we have spanned, our community classes are in 8 cities between Hampton Roads and the Eastern Shore. And we did just open up a second studio in the Eastern Shore too.
Wow. What a story. And it's cool that you did the community classes and have been able to expand that, because people often think about yoga practice as a place.
Yes.
Like it's like I go to my sanctuary to practice yoga.
Yes.
Versus any environment, because you can roll your mat out anywhere.
I get so many people that come to a community class first because they flat out say that they do not feel comfortable going to a yoga studio. Yeah. And that's not just, sure, it happens a lot with men, but it happens with women too. It happens with a younger, older, you name it. Everybody has, different things that kind of give them this setback, I'm scared to do it. But if it's a brewery that you've been to 20 times before, you feel more comfortable walking into that door. And I still took that vision of, this idea of yoga studio, coffee shop. It was more for me like, I want this space where would I go to just meet up and talk? Mm-hmm. And that's whenever I kind of came up with that idea. And that's also what helped me to formulate this idea of community classes. Like, how can I go to this space where we can easily talk and hang out after? And that's why here in Norfolk, we have 2 different rooms. And in what we call our Lotus Room is where we have free co-working Monday to Friday. We do sell canned cold brews. We use that room for a lot of fun different events. This past week, we had a book club. We had a vision boards, scrapbooking. We're going to have what we're calling Stitch and Bitch, which is where people bring their sewing or their crafts and just kind of hang out and work on their projects. But that's still, I like to say, the backbone of the business. What we call off the mat, that's what makes Sky's the Limit something special.
Hey everyone, this episode is sponsored by my company, Valor Cybersecurity, where we help defense contractors navigate the uncharted waters of cybersecurity compliance. As a cyber attack victim myself, I know the impact that this plays in people's lives, and at Valor, we solve that each and every day. If you're a defense contractor feeling frustrated and confused when it comes to cybersecurity compliance, visit valor-cybersecurity.com, take our free assessment, and get started on your journey to clarity in cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it takes me back to a concept that I learned when I was in Europe, and they when you go into specific coffee shops that are family owned, they talk a lot about how coffee shops used to be industry specific, and it was people would gather that had common mentalities, and coffee shop was kind of the venue for them to do it. And I think that principle of having a place where community can exist, but then being able to that not be the only location.
Yes.
That you can take that outside of this area, but you still have that commonality. I think they talk a lot about that with coffee shops, and coffee was like the caretaker. The owner of the coffee shop was like your caretaker that knew when you were sick, or they would give you different remedies and things of that nature. And I think about that going back to yoga is there's so many different forms of yoga and benefits that that coffee shop model provided more in products, but I think from a body and psychological piece, yoga provides that community piece.
We also, which is so cool to see, whenever I was announcing that we were going to be opening a second location, I kind of did, a fun spoiler and where do you think it's going to be? And one of our most successful spots out in Fort Monroe at Ouzelfinch Brewing. That's probably the farthest, I guess I'd say, in the opposite direction of Cape Charles. But we had so many students that go to that class regularly that were like, ooh, in this area. It's just so cool for me to see that people still say that they are part of Sky's the Limit, even though their regular home base for Sky's the Limit is not even in a city that we have a studio. And I will say those Hampton yogis are begging for me to open a place. So maybe one day it'll happen.
It's cool when your customer or when your community can dictate your business plan.
Yes.
Which it sounds like a common theme for you, as you've been able to kind of listen to the market, and obviously you have to be the person to kind of start that. And I think a lot of our listeners may be on the edge of wanting to start their own concept, but are still held back by some type of preconceived notion. So I'm curious, when you were first starting out, I'm sure it wasn't the perfect time to.
Oh God, no. There's never a perfect time. It doesn't matter what it is. You can have endless finances. You can have 17 people, cheering you on. And no matter what, there's just never a perfect time. It's the same whenever it comes to you taking yoga and kind of relating it, right? There's never the right day to start doing yoga. Yeah. You just got to do the thing. Mm. And it's the same with business. There's never the right day. You just have to actually, I hate to say it like this because it's not very yogi-like, but you just have to grow a pair, you know? You have to like believe in yourself, and nobody else will believe in you at that time, right? Like, I mean, I shouldn't say nobody will believe in you. That's maybe not the nicest thing to say, but nobody will believe in you enough to give you that push, right? You have to believe in yourself in order to make that first step, that first commitment. And it's not easy. God, the amount of times I've cried, like, over business. And yes, that's because I put my heart and soul into it, but it wouldn't be what it is if I didn't put my heart and soul into it either.
Yeah, I can definitely tell that you do. And it shows in the brand. We always say on this show, life's an inside job, because when you believe in yourself, it's interesting how the outside environment, it's like the ripple effects start where the outside world starts to believe in that vision, because you've shown them a light that they didn't see before.
Yeah, I read a quote not too long ago that just kind of, I think, really connects to this. And it's something that I've used even just to help me like start a new task, and we all have those tasks that we just keep pushing off, right? And it goes, I might butcher it a little, but it says something like, you either have one day or one day. And meaning that, like, or maybe it goes more of you either have day one or one day, right? Yeah. And meaning that it's either I'm starting it this day or one day down the road it's going to happen, right? And you have to kind of make that decision. Are you going to keep pushing it off? Or is today the day that you're going to take that first step towards it?
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about your transition. I know you went from dance and then you got into yoga, loved it, dove in head first, went and worked a couple years in corporate America. What did it take to get you from the community classes you were hosting, having that stability of a full-time job, to say, I feel ready enough to grow a pair per se and really like dive in?
So I should fix my timeline a little bit. I left corporate America and then started the community classes. Gotcha. So I left corporate America in 2017 and I started Sky's the Limit in 2017. I was teaching part-time at other studios and things like that in Florida. But once I moved from Florida to Virginia, I had no paycheck, which is very scary, by the way. But I would say what really helped me take the leap was I knew that I had good ideas, and I knew that I was a hard worker. And I really hated that there were certain parts for me in corporate America whenever my job was to basically help somebody that was making a lot of money, kind of help them with like bad decisions. And I didn't like that. Like it just ethically, there were a lot of things that kind of yoga and my job didn't necessarily see eye to eye in. I just knew that it wasn't something that I wanted. If you were to ask me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? My only answer was not here. Like, so I don't know where, but I don't want to be doing this. Yeah. And everything just kept relating back to yoga. In regards to the community classes to opening a brick and mortar, silly young Danielle thought that, oh, I will move here. I'm going to find a spot. This will all work out great. And like I said, I started community classes in July of 2017. I toured my first brick and mortar in either that same month or it was August. And I learned a lesson really quick. That landlord, we needed a bunch of renovations had to be done. Like we're talking $100,000 worth of renovations. And they wanted me to pay that and rent. And I was like, I can't do that. I can do one or the other, which I really couldn't do one or the other, by the way, but I was trying to figure it out. And what we agreed upon, I said, okay, cool. She went and drafted a lease, all this stuff. I literally walked in the door. I kind of flipped through the lease to look at the pay page, and everything we agreed upon was not actually in the lease. And I was like, where did this go? And she's like, well, actually, me and my partner decided that that's not something we would be able to, we're not ready for that step. We would need you to financially, put money into getting the bathrooms up to code and just things that you would never imagine. And I learned a lot that day. I was very proud of myself for just shaking her hand and saying, thank you for the opportunity. And even though I just wanted to yell and scream and cry, and I just got up, I turned around. As soon as I got out the door, I let myself cry. And then I kept looking at spots, and man, nothing worked. It is really hard to find a spot to be able to do what I wanted to do with yoga and coffee. I wasn't getting anywhere with having a building that could support both, or having permitting work my way. Nothing. I viewed dozens of buildings. At first, I should say, I got to a point where I was like, I would start my community classes with this little box of just sky's the limit shirts that I had made. I was like, I'm opening up a yoga studio and coffee shop. Whenever that happened for years, I was like, these people must think I'm lying. They must be like, this is never happening. But man, I'm actually happy that it did work out the way that it did. Yes, was it discouraging at times? Of course. But having a client base before opening a brick and mortar is huge. And it's really hard to be able to do that. And I basically, from 2017 to 21, built that client base without having to, quite frankly, pay rent. I was able to do it just in parks, and, sure, I might pay a vendor, out or something, but I was able to take in that revenue. I was able to help grow. I mean, we built, and by we, I mean 99% me and one or two teachers that were helping me out of teaching some of the classes. But we were able to grow on social media. We were able to use a lot of free marketing tools, and to where people said, oh yeah, I've heard of Sky's the Limit. Where is that? And I was like, well, it's actually nowhere. It's at all these random spots, And so I think maybe that answers your question. I'm not sure.
No, absolutely it does. I think the best businesses are funded by the customer or by the consumer, and to some extent. And I think a lot of people go for the loan, or they go for venture capital funding without the customer saying, yes, we want that.
Yeah.
And I think it creates a lot of pain for people. So I always recommend, when somebody says, I want to start a business, go to your customer, do something like that.
Yes. I can say for me too, in the beginning, I tried getting funding from everything you could think about, to grants that would make sense that I should be able to receive, to, looking at loans. I was denied. I was able to get a lease, and I knew that I still needed some money, and I was terrified. I was like, if I don't get this financing by X amount, it's not going to happen. The only way that I got the financing was for them to see how and what I grew. Even though my business plan didn't look like how most people would probably assume, right? Because I kind of showed, okay, I grew from having a regular base of, let's say, a dozen people to hundreds of people, just, and being able to obviously show finances, of course, and different things like that. That's what gave a bank gave them the, I guess I'd say the moral support, the yes, you're deserving of this. If I didn't have that, students didn't show up to the community classes, there's no way that I would have been able to be where I am now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's incredible. Did you have a mentor or somebody that had started a yoga studio that helped you through it? Or did you just kind of figure it out by having conversations with the people that were attending the classes and teachers?
Totally. I would say I had two different businesses of mentors. In St. Pete, Florida, the Body Electric Yoga Company, I taught there for a little bit as I was trying to figure out my own vision. I even thought of opening a studio in St. Pete. I was like, number one, I don't want to go against, it's such a bad word, but I don't want to be in the same market of what I consider my yoga home. So I started looking at other parts of Florida, and I was like, why am I doing this? I've always wanted to move. This was the farthest north I looked at Virginia. People call it the South, but to me, it's the North. They were a huge influence as to who I am, not only as a teacher, but as a business owner. I still look up to them to this day. I think they're great people. And also from coffee as well, actually. Buddy Brew is a small kind of chain in the Tampa, St. Pete area. And that's where I learned a lot of the behind the scenes. I kind of got to see their process of opening up one of their locations and also understand like what's the difference from a latte to a cortado. And I think that they're also just very sweet people and have grown their business in a huge but a small way all at the same time, which I think is really special.
Yeah, it's kind of like a hometown feel. To be able to expand to like 2 locations, it starts to get bigger because things get more streamlined.
Yes.
And I think there's an art to keeping it, having that kind of identity and that feeling.
Yes.
That very few businesses I think can do well. And I feel like you've baked that into Sky's the Limit, where as you expand, you still want to keep that foundational story and brand identity, which I think it's a noble mission. And I think it's cool that you're keeping it, consistent like that.
Thank you.
Versus trying to find people to franchise it, because everybody looks.
I did get my first franchise request, by the way, which was very weird.
Yeah.
I was like, this is cool, but no.
It shows that people are interested in it and see the brand value, because as you mentioned, the community classes I think can apply anywhere.
Yes.
It's not really a location. It's more of a practice that somebody can take to their state or their city and really expand upon that, which I think is rare. And I haven't seen that in any other parts of the U.S. So I think that's extremely cool. So how can folks connect with you, Danielle, with Sky's the Limit, attend a class? Where are the classes? Things of that nature.
Yeah, all the things. So from a Sky's the Limit perspective, 2 studios. One is in Norfolk, Virginia. The other's in Cape Charles. We're super active on social media. So that's at Sky's the Limit Yoga Company on Instagram. We also have a direct page just for all the off the mat things. Because like I said, it's in 8 cities. Yes, we go all the way to Hampton. We're in Portsmouth, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, the Eastern Shore. I'm obviously not naming them all right now, but we do span throughout a lot. And that is what we call STL off the mat. Our website is very user friendly. We use a booking system called Moments, and I've had literally, like, not trying to bash my 80-year-olds, but I've had 80-year-olds say, oh my gosh, the app is so user friendly. Nice. So I know that we've done something right there. Yeah. I do teach within both studios. I think that that's a really important piece of the puzzle. Obviously, I'm not teaching as much at Norfolk as I was, but I do teach in both studios. I do teach in several of our community classes in different cities. And I do think that I will forever be a teacher. I think it's an important thing as a business owner to say that I'm still doing this thing, this is how I started and this is still part of me. Myself, so I kind of started by saying I also take yoga to the barbell and dinner plate. I work one-on-one with clients with an app that it's called True Coach. My other business is called The Caffeinated Yogi, and I do most of that all online. On Instagram, it's The Caffeinated Yogi Company. I do also a podcast, Caffeinated Yogi Talks. But there I work directly with people one-on-one. I like to take the yoga mind to your strength training, the yoga mind to nutrition, and I also work one-on-one from mobility as well. I have clients now throughout the U.S., thanks to mostly military things, overseas as well. But that is, something that can be done really wherever.
Yeah, you've created a lot of accessibility, which I think brings it to people of all walks of life. And I think that is something that yoga, I feel like, does uniquely. And you've really exploited that for the positive.
Thank you.
And I think it's just incredible what you're doing and how you continue to grow it and create ripples in the community of people who may think they're yogis and people who don't think they're yogis. And I think that's what really connects us and is the fiber of communities, is activities that can bring different people of different walks of life together with a shared common mission just to be better, to grow. And
yes, I used to say that to be a yogi meant that you just had to step on your mat, which I do agree with. But I now think that to be a yogi means that maybe you step on your mat or maybe you're just trying to be a good person. And I think that that's where we really try to grow from that off the mat mindset.
Yeah.
We have some people that have come just to our book clubs and have never taken a yoga class, but they say that they feel like they are in an environment that is safe, that's welcoming, that's accessible, that's fun, all those positive words. And I think that to be a yogi simply means that, sure, maybe it's stepping on your yoga mat, maybe it's going to book club, it doesn't matter, but just that you're trying to be a better version of yourself. And I think that we can all agree that it's kind of like a good life goal.
Yeah, it really is. Well, the sky's definitely the limit for you guys. I'm excited for where you're headed. One of the last questions we like to ask on this show, because we're all about the connected mindset and helping people that are listening feel more connected with the world around them. I'm curious, what does the word connection mean to you?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I would say that it is a way to be relatable. Because for some, that might mean that you are connecting over something like a cup of coffee. For others, that might mean how you connect to your own time, right? Like connect to being able to move on your mat. But it's more so, I feel like, I don't know, the word relatable is popping up to me, because it's more of how can I relate this yoga practice to my life? How can we have, something that is this conversation over a cup of coffee that's more of, we have this common ground, right? So relatable was the word that pops up to me.
Excellent. I love it. Thanks so much for joining the show.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you so much for listening. If you're feeling more connected from this episode, please like, subscribe, and share with someone that you care about. And I'll see you on the next episode of the Connected Mindset Podcast.